Hello everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and today we're going to be doing a physical media pickup video. So as you know, it's just where I just talk about like all the different things that I picked up, more than just, with video games, movies, music, and books and manga, and all that kind of fun stuff. So, yep, you know the drill already, so let's just get the discussion going and just let it begin. Alrighty, so first we're going to start off with the video games, and there's only two. So this one right here is The Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero, which is the very first Crossbell game, finally in English now, which is great, because, this is one game that was, was on, like, the Vita, and I feel like if the Vita was more successful, I think we probably could have gotten these games, like, way earlier, but, you know what, whatever, we got them now, and, yeah, unfortunately I haven't gotten around to playing it, because when I ordered this, it finally came in, early October, and I was already, like, knee-deep in doing, like, the horror stuff, so, yeah, so that's why I didn't really get a chance to play it yet. I definitely will sometime this month for sure. I just kind of want to do, like, my own, like, review on something first, and then want to jump into this, but, yeah, I'm a big fan of the series. You guys all know that I love the series a lot. In fact, I'm doing a whole parody series of, like, the Cold Steel games, so that should tell you something, right? Alright, and now the next one is also another, like, bigger edition game. This is another one that I was just like, oh yeah, I have to get this, and that happens to be the Valis Collection 2, and yeah, look at this nice box, like, it's just really cool looking. In fact, this is not made out of cardboard, this is, like, made out of, like, plastic, which is kind of interesting, so you got a really cool cover there. I actually did open up this one, because, I really wanted to see the goodies and all that, but yeah, look at, like, the inside here, like, I love the artwork with that. So yeah, this is another Valis Collection. This one comes with 3, and yeah, this is the game. It's in, like, this, like, little red case, which is cool. And, here's another, like, artwork down here, which I really like that a lot, too. That actually just looks really dope. So, yeah, so this also comes with a figure, but the figure, like, comes in, actually, you have to put it together, which is, like, kind of cool, but I just haven't done it yet, just because I haven't had the time, and then, of course, also, I kind of want to get, like, my room better organized before I, try to fuck around with all this type of stuff, so that's when I'll be able to make the figure, and then, whenever I do my room tour video, you guys will probably see it, but, yeah, so this Valis Collection comes with, the PC Engine one of 4, which is a really good one, and then it comes with 2 Genesis games. It comes with the first one on Genesis, which I think is a decent version. It's not like my favorite version, but it's not bad. And then you get like the worst one in the series, which is Cid of Valis, like the really chibi looking one. Which honestly, that game could have been really good, but unfortunately just had like really shit controls. But, but despite that though, like, yeah, this collection may not be as good as the first collection, but I just love what they did with the packaging here, because the first one didn't have, like, a cool epic box like this, so I mainly just got this just because I really wanted the figure, mostly. Alright, so let's get on to the movies now. So, unfortunately, I did not find any more anime DVDs or Blu Rays, but I did get a bunch of movies over here. Mostly DVD, but I get like 3 Blu Rays. We'll do the Blu Rays first. And this one right here is, when I've talked about the book already, but, Arnold and the Running Man. So, yeah, I don't really need to say much on it. I already talked about how much I think this film is just a lot of fun, and I love the concept and everything. But, yeah, I'm definitely going to talk more about this whenever I get my book review channel up and going. Alright, and next up is, this 2-pack Godzilla, which comes with Godzilla Tokyo SOS and Final Wars. And, yeah, I love both of these films. Even though Tokyo SOS is, like, I think it's the part 2 to the other, like, Millennium series. I forget what the first one is called off the top of my head, because, so many movies and so many different titles. But, yeah, it's part 2 to one of them, and it's really damn good. I love both of them. And then the Final Wars is, like, the most craziest film in the series, because it includes, like, so many different monsters, and there's so many fight scenes, not only with, like, the kaijus, but even, like, the human characters fight each other as well. There's a lot of, like, martial arts, and it's really over the top as shit, and I love it. I really love that American dude in the movie, where he just, like, karate chops people. Like, that dude's just fucking hilarious, but, yeah, good old, Godzilla shit that you can't go wrong with. Alright, and next up we got is a movie that I was not sure if I was gonna like it, but then I watched it, and it was surprisingly not a bad movie, and that was, the double pack of the Sonic live-action movies. So yes, I actually saw both of these around when they came out, and yeah, I thought they were really good. Like I said, like I think like everyone was like expecting these movies to not be good because you know like they haven't even gotten like the Sonic games right in a long time. Like how well do you think they're going to do a live-action movie? And everyone knows that you know video game live-action movies aren't the greatest in the world, but well, they turn it around, and yeah, I really like both of them. I think Jim Carrey's definitely like the best part of these films, but I still think the rest of them are still like really good. In fact, I think I maybe might like the second one a bit more than the first one, but I think the first one does have like some really good iconic scenes that I just think are just really great and well done. So yeah, who would have thought that a fucking Sonic live-action movie were good, let alone two of them. And also they're making a third one, which I'm actually looking forward to. Now, as for the DVDs, so this is a series of 4, and this is a series that I've never seen. I got these all at a thrift store, but as soon as I saw them, I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll check them out. That happens to be the Charlie Chan series. No, not Jackie Chan, but Charlie Chan. Yeah, so how I first knew about this series is that, James Rolfe, he talked about it in one of his videos. It was the longest running forgotten franchises, or you know, basically a series of like movies that like spanned like you know across like many years, but then all of a sudden they just kind of just dropped on the face of the earth. And this is definitely one of them because of the last film they did was in the 80s, and they never made another one since. And they had like a shitload before that. So yeah, so we got you know Charlie Chan in Paris, Charlie Chan in Shanghai, Charlie Chan in Egypt, and Charlie Chan in London. So from what I know about this, it's basically like a sort of like Sherlock Holmes and James Bond, sort of between the two. They're all like black and white films, and yeah, so I don't know a whole lot about these other than that, and you know, like I said, like the fact that it's like one of the longest running series that just kind of dropped the face of the earth, but I'm kind of curious to check them out. You know, like, I could always use watching some good old classic stuff, and, you know, I have heard that these films are a little bit, unpolitically correct, so, I mean, hey, fuck it. And next up we got is, one of my favorite, Marvel comic movies, and, no, it's not any of the recent ones. That happens to be The Punisher with Thomas Jane. So, yeah, this is, yeah, like I said, one of my favorite, Marvel movies. I really love this one a lot. Very violent, very, has a lot of kick-ass scenes in it. Also has a lot of, like, depressing shit in it, too, but it's very fitting for the film. And also, I think Thomas Jane is just a really good actor in general. Like, he's I find him to be very underrated, I feel like. He's been in, like, so many good movies, but yet he never, like, you don't hear a lot of people talk about him anymore. It's kind of sad, but, yeah. This is one of my favorite ones for sure. As much as I love the Dolph Lundgren movie for what it is, I do think this one is just, like, it stays true to the character, I feel like, the most. And next up, we got one that I gotta thank my friend Tyler Stevenson for recommending to me, and that happens to be Cole the Conqueror, which is, like I said, I've never heard of this movie until he talked about it, and I gotta say, it actually sounded really cool the way he described it. It's kind of like a, like Conan, sort of. It's kind of sort of like a Conan film, kinda. I think this is from the 90s, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it just looks like a pretty cool, like fun adventure movie with, you know, manly muscles and, like, sexy chicks in it, you know what? Like, I'm all up for that. As for the next one we got is, Crimson Tide. This is a movie I remember watching years ago, and I remember it sort of being like The Hunt for Red October, mainly just because it has to do with, like, you know, it being like a submarine and shit. But yeah, I definitely do want to watch it again, because it has been a long time. In fact, one weird thing I found out about this film is that apparently Quentin Tarantino was involved with the film, but he was uncredited for some reason, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Alright, then we got two other movies that were also recommended to me from Tyler Stevenson in some of his recent pickup videos, and one of them I ordered online, and the other one I actually found in my area. So they happen to be American Samurai, which is pretty cool. This one I had to order online, and I had to replace the case because the disc holder that I got in it was like really fuckular looking. And then the other one is Van Damme with The Quest. The Quest for what? Like, hopefully not the Eternal Quest, but yeah, anyways, yeah. So these are both the, like, cheesy martial art movies that just look really fun and all that. And, like, I haven't really seen that much Van Damme movies, and I've heard there are some that are pretty enjoyable on, like, mindless level, and I'm down for that. But, yeah, I haven't got around to watching these just yet. I did get my TV up in my room, like, finally, so I can watch these movies now. Next up we got is a classic Robert Rodriguez movie, and that is El Mariachi. Is that how it's pronounced? I don't know. But, I've seen this movie before, and I love it. It's great. Has a lot of really kick-ass scenes in it, as again, and a really great storyline. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it, because, I assume most people know about this movie, even if you've never seen the movie, I'm sure you at least, like, heard of it and know, like, the iconic scenes in it. And next up we got is another movie that I haven't seen in, like, ages, and that happens to be Good Morning Vietnam with Robin Williams, one of my all-time favorites. So, yeah. If you know Robin Williams, he's a very funny guy, but he's also just a really good actor in general. Like, he does a really good job of, like, like, the serious work, but also with, like, the funny shit. But, of course, most people know him for the funny shit. And, yeah, no, this is a really good one. This definitely is, like, way funnier than MASH, I'll tell you that. And as for the final DVD that we got here, this one happens to be The Edge, because it's edgy. I don't fucking know. I just like making fun of the name of it, because I actually did, years ago, I did do a parody cover of this, where I did it of, I replaced one of their heads with the Edge, from, WWE, the Rated R Superstar, and then the other one I did with Shadow the Hedgehog. I'll probably put a picture of it just so you guys could see it, but yeah, I did that just because fuck it, why not? But, yeah, very, very good movie. It's basically about, like, two guys that are, like, stuck together, that have to try to survive, and they hate each other, but they have to work together, and, like I said, has really good actors in it, Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins, and they're great. And there's some really intense scenes in here. Really awesome movie, highly recommended, because, like I said, this is another movie that doesn't really get talked about that much, because, when people talk about Anthony Hopkins, it's always Hannibal, which, I mean, I can understand that, because it's awesome, but this is one that's definitely worth watching, too. Alright, so now we're going to be talking about some music albums that I picked up, and first we're going to start off with a letter A one that's metal, and that happens to be the classic, Except. Yeah, you gotta love this album cover, right? Yeah, so I always thought this album cover was so fucking stupid, but the album is like definitely one of their best, balls to the wall. And then, this is Metal Heart, which this album cover, I actually do like the artwork on it, and, both of these albums are great. They're definitely some of the best that they had to offer. So, obviously Balls to the Walls has, well, Balls to the Wall, which is their most, like, well-known song, and it was the first one I ever heard from them all the way back in the day. But, then you got other, like, great ones, like Fight It Back, Head Over Heels, Guardian of the Night, all very good. And in this one, you got Metal Heart, you got Midnight Mover, Up to the Limit, Living for Tonight, like, very, very, very good classic heavy metal stuff that you just can't go wrong with. Next up we got is another classic metal band from the 80s, and that happens to be Skid Row with their debut album. Yeah, this is another band that's just really good, although I haven't heard much of their later stuff, but I'm familiar with the earlier ones, though. But yeah, as again, just like Accept, really good band, they have, like, a lot of, like, good catchy songs I like, Piece of Me, 18 in Life, Can't Stand the Headache, or the Heartache, not the headache. But, Youth Gone Wild is also very good. I think that one was actually in one of the wrestling games, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it was. I just forget which one it was in at the moment. And next up, we got a heavy metal album that I used to listen to a lot when I was in high school on my iPod, and that was, At the Gates with Slaughter of the Soul. So, yeah, this is, like, what would you call this? Like thrash death metal, sort of. Like, I don't know the whole technical term, but it's like I said, it's all, like, very thrashy, very, like, it's all like screaming for the most part. And like I said, I used to listen to this album a lot in high school, and I loved it. You got, like, songs like, obviously, Slaughter of the Soul, you got Cold, like, Under a Serpent's Sun, Blinded by Fear, You know, like, I just, like I said, like, I've always really enjoyed listening to this album. I never owned it back then. Like I said, I used to, like, download all the shit off LimeWire and put them on my iPod. That's how I listened to this back then. But, you know, I always thought the album cover was cool, too. And, you know, like I said, I just have a lot of good nostalgic memories listening to this in my, like, high school edgy sort of days. And next up we got is some prog stuff. And this one right here is, ELP with Tarkus with a pretty cool album cover. I always thought this like little like armadillo tank thing kind of looks like a RPG boss or something, which I always thought was kind of cool. But another thing too that's also like kind of funny about this album is that me and a friend of mine used to joke around and say that that these guys invented the Super Nintendo sound chip, because there are definitely some parts on this album that definitely do sound like something that came on a Super Nintendo game, but like years before the Super Nintendo was even a thing. Because yeah, this was from like 1971, which is really awesome. But yeah, obviously like the big like epic track on here is called Tarkus, which is like 20 minutes long, but it's fucking awesome. But the rest of the album is very good too. So yeah, definitely worth listening to if you just want some like I said, like really great classic progressive rock. And next we got another prog rock band, but this is actually like a pretty recent one, and that happens to be Haken with The Mountain. Or, I also thought they were called Haken, which, you know, Haken actually sounds kind of awesome too, but Haken, I mean, you know, whatever. So, yeah, this is actually a newer prog rock band. I think they formed, like, at, like, the end of the, like, 2000s, or, like early 2010s. I think it was somewhere around there. But, yeah, so this is a really good newer band that definitely was inspired by a lot of old stuff, which I really, really like. You know, like probably one of my favorite songs on here is The Cockroach King. It's fucking great. If I had to recommend, like, any song off this album, I probably would say that one would be, like, the go-to one. And next we have is, one of my favorite albums from the band Styx, and that's, The Grand Illusion, with its, very trippy album cover, which I really like. In fact, I actually have a t-shirt of this, but I should have worn it today, but fuck it, I guess Deep Purple works fine, alright? But, yeah, anyways, this is my favorite album from Styx. Styx is a band that, like, I love their early stuff. Some of the later stuff I'm kind of, like, okay on. You know, it's alright. Not nearly as good in my opinion, but they do have, like, some decent songs here and there that are good, but yeah, but this shit right here is definitely, like, some of their best. I know everyone knows about, you know, like, Come Sail Away, which, yeah, that's a good song, but I feel like there's, like, so much better shit on here, though, like Man in the Wilderness, and, you know, of course, the Grand Illusion song itself. And then there's Fooling Yourself. And then definitely my favorite song, and this is probably the best song they ever written, is Castle Walls. I fucking love that song. That's, like I said, if there's one song I had to recommend off this album, it's Castle Walls. Go listen to it. It's just fucking great. And better than, like, everything else they've ever done. Next up we got is a Japanese album that I found in my area, which is very strange, and that happens to be Gak-T with Moon. You know, the guy that was in, you know, Final Fantasy Crisis Core. You know, he was Genesis, he was modeled after him. And then, of course, you know, there's also the game on PS2, why can I not think of the name right now? Bujingai. There you go. Yeah. So, you know, he has his own albums and shit. He's not just, like, a video game guy. But, yeah, his stuff is actually really good. I actually do enjoy them. They're very catchy. And this side actually has a really cool, unique packaging, but unfortunately it's not the most practical. Like, so the disc I have is in this, like, little sleeve, because the actual disc holder is, like, really fucked up. Like, you had to put the disc, like, in here. I don't know how well you can see it, but you had to, like take it out, like that, and it's, like, every time I feel like I did it, like, it felt like it was gonna, like, break the disc, so I ended up just, like, throwing it in here for now, because that's how, like, fucking stupid it was. So that's a little unfortunate, but I will say the artwork, like, in the actual booklet is cool. And also the way the packaging is also, you know, very unique, because it's not just, like, a book. Like literally every page is, like, made out of, like hard cardboard, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, like I said, like, I was just really surprised that I actually found a Gak-T album around my area, so I had to pick it up. And it is actually a pretty good album, too. Alright, now the rest of these albums are ones I had to order online, because, you know, I would, like, never be able to find them around my area. And this one right here is Opeth with Blackwater Park. So Opeth is a band that, like, a lot of people have recommended me these guys for, like, ages, and for some reason, like, I never, like, checked them out for a very long time. It wasn't until, like, I think, like, 2 years ago, I finally heard, like, some of their albums, and I'm like, fuck, why did I put these guys off for so long? Like, this shit is fucking great. So, yeah, because, you know, they're basically, like a prog metal band where, you know, they has, like, a lot of, like, heavy metal shit, but it's also, like, progressive as well. You know, it has, like, a lot of, like, both, like, really good, like, you know, vocals, but also some, like, growling, too. And I know, like, later on in their career, they kind of, like, slowed down on the metal stuff and were just mostly, like, old school, like, classic prog shit. And I actually heard a bit of both eras, and I like both of them a lot, but I think I do prefer the metal stuff a bit more. But they're still very good, though. But yeah, Blackwater Park, though, like, this is definitely one of my favorites from them. It's hard to say what is my favorite, but this is definitely up there for sure. Alright, and next up we got is also another one of my favorites, and that being Axel Rudy Pell's latest album, being Lost 23. I think that's what the Roman numeral is. I think that's supposed to be 23. But yeah, so I have not heard this album yet. In fact, I'm sure as you noticed, but these ones that I've ordered online, they're still sealed because I'm trying to, like, get, like, the new program to, like, dump my music files onto, but so I just haven't gotten around to doing that yet. But yeah, so I haven't heard this album yet, but given that I do love, like, Axel Rudy Pell's, like, catalog, yeah, even though I know some of it is maybe a little bit samey, but, I mean, hey, I can't get enough of it, and I just love it a lot. So I do hope this one is, you know, more or less like the same kind of thing, but, like, you know, even better in some ways, but we'll see. But yeah, I always just love their album artwork as well. In fact, there's just so many Axel Rudy Pell albums I would love to own, but, you know, unfortunately they're just kind of hard to find in the area. Alright, and next up we got another great heavy metal band from the 80s, and that being Armored Saint. Another one that I just love the album cover of. Actually, it's probably my favorite album cover from this band in general. But yeah, this album is, as again, really fucking awesome. Really love it. You know, like March of the Saints, like that one is just really great. And you got, like, Madhouse, Take a Turn. Oh man, there's just so many, like, great tracks. In fact, this one, as you can tell with the little sticker here, does come with some extra goodies, which is very cool. And yeah, like I said, this is a really good classic band. I know they're actually still going strong today. I think they're actually touring with Merciful Fate, if I think. Or King Diamond? I forget which one, but they're touring with one of the people right like that. So I think that's really cool that they're still going strong today. And yeah, like I said, really awesome shit. And that happens to be Return to Forever with Romance Warrior. Yeah, another album cover with a cool night picture on it. Like, fucking awesome, right? But yeah, like I said, this one is not metal. It's actually kind of like jazz fusion, kind of like old prog mixed in with it too. Really good. I actually found out about this album because it was in my recommended section on YouTube, and I was like, ooh, I love that album cover. I'm gonna check that out. And I did, and I actually really loved it. So, thank you for YouTube recommendation for not giving me shit content, but, because sometimes they do that. And now we got ourselves another Japanese album, and that happens to be Kiyo-san with Organizer. So as again, this is another prog rock band, although this is an instrumental one, and it does have some jazz elements in there, but it is mostly like prog rock, has a lot of like really awesome like drumming and keyboards and all that kind of great stuff. I really love it a lot. In fact, I know my friend Rave Racer really likes these, and yeah, I mean, I agree. They're fucking awesome. And yeah, I actually found out about this group because of a YouTube channel I follow, Sea Tranquility. One of the people on there mentioned them, and I was like, ooh, I'm definitely gonna check that out. And I did, and well, I bought it, and I fucking love it. So, yeah. Like I said, if you love really good, like, instrumental shit, and this is stuff that definitely sounds like it could have belonged in a video game, then yeah, highly recommended. Alright, now finally, this is the last album that I got, and this is an album that I was not expecting to find, like, anywhere anytime soon, because this is an album that rarely pops up on eBay, and when it does, it's not cheap. But I figured I'd drop on it because, you know, like, when other time I would be able to get it, and it happens to be an album that I actually reviewed, so the numbers are very small, and that happens to be Sky Cruisin' from Hori Katsumi Project. And yeah, so I already did a whole in-depth review on the album, so if you do want to know like more of my thoughts on it, you can check that out, even though I don't really do album reviews that anymore, because they're really hard to fucking do, because you can't like show examples or anything, and it's hard to like describe the music without like saying the same shit over and over again sometimes, but yeah, man, I fucking adore this album. I mean, I love the cover art, and I love all, like, the artwork in general. In fact, I really want to get, Aizen Suzuki's art book one day. That would be great. But, yeah, this album is just really fucking awesome. Really great, instrumental, like, jazz fusion. And you know what? Even if you are, like, a huge prog head, you might be able to get into this, I think. I think this is just a really good one. So, yeah, highly recommended. Like I said, this is a very rare album to find, so I would recommend listening to it on YouTube first. Alright, so, next up we got is the manga stuff, and, this one, you can probably already tell what it is just from, like, without me talking about it, but, you know, it's the 4th volume of, Fist of the North Star with, Jaggy on the cover, who's one of my favorite villains in the whole series, so definitely had to grab that. And, you know, just like I've said with these hardcovers are really nice looking. Like I just love the way that they look, and I'm just so happy that we have these. Of course, I haven't gotten around to, like, actually, like, rereading them, like, since I've been picking them up, but I definitely will soon, of course. I want to pick up more of the volumes, and then once I'm up to date, then I probably will. Alright, and next up we got is another manga that, I've been trying to get the whole set of this for, like, a few years now, but they've just been kind of getting a little hard to find, but I finally got one that I wasn't able to find for a long time, and that being is, Dead Man Wonderland with Volume 9. So, I actually own 1 through 6 and Volume 8. And now I have 9. But I'm missing 7, which kind of pisses me off because, I've been trying to look for 7, but it's just been so fucking hard. Like, it rarely ever comes up on eBay, and whenever it does, it's always in, like, a lot. And then, of course, like, no one ever wants to sell, like, them individually, which, yeah. Well, anyways, yeah, so Dead Man Wonderland, I've read a fair bit of the manga, and I can say the manga is amazing. I love it. It's a lot better than the anime. Even though the anime wasn't bad, it was just the ending that sucked. But yeah, so I really wish they would, like, do, like, a remake of it or something, because then do it more faithfully. I think that would be great. But anyway, so yeah, like, it's basically like, you know, guy gets sent to jail, and then he has to, like, use, like, these, like, weird blood powers to, like, defend himself, and of course, when he goes to jail, it's not just some ordinary jail. Like, the jail basically looks like a theme park and a carnival of death, and kind of also has, like, the survival show, game show vibe of it, you know, kind of like The Running Man. So I guess if you think about it, this probably is the closest thing you'll ever get to the Running Man anime version, at least when it comes to the Arnold movie. And next up we have is this really big motherfucker. It's really fucking huge, and that happens to be Spriggan. Yeah, frickin' Spriggan. I don't know, I just like calling it that. But, yeah, so this is I know there's a PC Engine CD game. It's a shoot 'em up, but it's not related to this, but it has, like, the exact same name, which is kind of funny. And then, of course, there's also a FromSoft game that is related to this called, Spriggan the Lunarverse, but unfortunately it really sucks. And then, you know, there's also an anime movie, which I've seen, and the anime movie is a lot of fun, mostly because of the action scenes and the animation. The plot is, like, you know, kind of bare basic shit, but, you know, it's whatever. It's at least worth watching for the action and the animation, because it's just so fucking cool. And then now we got this manga coming out, and as again, it's, like, fucking huge. And, yeah, so I'm just always happy to see, like, old franchises getting brought back, and, you know, and all this and that, and they have, like, cool covers, and all this, and the art style's really nice. I haven't read this yet, but, I'm going to really soon. I might actually read this after I'm done the one manga that I've been reading that, I'm gonna talk about here in a moment, and, oh shit, there's actually a couple colored pages in here. That's actually pretty awesome. Alrighty, so now we got the last few manga volumes that I have, and this is a series that I just got, like, a bunch of them because I was really curious and wanted to check them out. I've actually been reading, I read 2 of them so far, and that happens to be Oku the Inner Chambers. So we got Volume 1, then there's Volume 2, this is the last one that I read. And then, Volume 3, you know, she actually, like, on the way how she looks on the cover, she kind of looks a little bit like, what's her name, Ochi, from Sengoku Bastard. She kind of looks a little bit like that. Then we got Volume 4, which I will say he actually looks kind of cool. And then we got Volume 5. So yeah, so I've been reading this little series here, and I gotta say, it's very interesting, but it's also kind of odd. Okay, so let me talk about it now. So basically, it's about like the world, like there's a pandemic where a bunch of like men are like getting killed off, and there's like a plague, and it's like killing them off, and now like the world like population has gone down by a lot, but it's only affecting men. So what they do is that they have like an inner chamber where basically like a whole bunch of men get sent there because, you know, it's like a quarantine zone, so to speak. So it all takes place in like old day Japan. So like, you know, like the 1700s. So, you know, that's really cool. Really like that. So it has a really interesting concept, and I do really like that. I think the plot is great. The characters are decent. You know, not like amazing characters, but so far that I've read, they're pretty decent, I'd say. And here's the thing: these books are a very slow burn, very very talky. There's like a lot of dialogue in here that you're gonna read, like, which, you know, not that I have a problem with that, but I'm just, you know, there's not a whole lot of action in here. It's mostly just talking about like all sorts of different things, and some of it's interesting, but then there's certain things that I feel like it could have been like explained like a little bit quicker, in my opinion. But, you know, that's not that bad. And then on top of that too, there's also a couple scenes in here that are kind of weird. How can I explain it without it sounding stupid? Basically, let's just say there is some content in here that I know won't sit right with people. Like, for example, there's a scene where one guy basically makes another guy drop the soap. Take that information with what you will. Of course, there's no, like, explicit content, but, you know, it's obvious to know, like, what's happening, so it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. So, you know, it has a lot of stuff like that, which, like I said, I know that won't sit right with a lot of people. But I could say I'm interested in this, but it's, like I said, it's very slow-paced. You definitely have to be in the right mood to read this, which is why I'm thinking about just reading, like, Volume 3, and then, depending how I feel about it then, I might just switch to Spriggan, because I think after, like, reading, like, all this, like, type of, like, serious stuff, I might have to switch to something that's a lot more, like, action-focused, but, like I said, not bad, but definitely, like, I don't love it as much as I was kind of hoping I would have, but it's not bad. But, like I said, I love the artwork on it. Like, I do love, like, not just, like the covers, like, even, like, the artwork, like, inside is also, like, very good looking. And also another weird thing I have to mention, too, is that the translation on these versions they used a very strange sort of way of speaking, where they speak in, like, Old English, like, you know, like, these and thou art I, and, you know, like I said, Old English, Shakespeare language, which, very strange, but, yeah. Because of all those things I've just said, I can say these are interesting. I kind of like it, but I don't love it as much as I would kind of hoping I would, though. But like I said, I'll try reading through all these eventually, and then we'll see if I do continue reading the whole series, because there's, like, I think, like, 19 volumes, I think. So, quite a bit. So yeah, that's basically my review of this, because I don't know if I'm going to review this series on my book channel once I get that open. Alright, so before we get to the actual novels, we do have a graphic novel that was made by Neil Gaiman, and that happens to be The Graveyard Book. So, kind of ironic, I actually got this in October, and yes, I actually did read through it, because after when I was done reading Misery, I was like, you know, I kind of want to read this, because, you know, like I said, it's a graphic novel, and, you know, like, if I can just showcase, like, some artwork here. Yeah, so yeah, it's one of those, and I actually read it through in, like, 3 days, and I gotta say, this is actually really, really good. So what it's about is that it's about this this baby. He like, his whole family gets, like, killed by this one guy, and he ends up, like, missing the baby somehow. But the baby ends up, like, getting out of the crib, leaving the house because, like, the door is open, and they live, like, right across from a graveyard. So he goes to the graveyard, and then like, this vampire guy, like, ends up, like, shooing away the murderer. And then, basically, the baby ends up being raised by a bunch of ghosts and a vampire. And then, it's like a coming-of-age story, but, you know, if, like, someone would, like, grew up entirely in, like, a graveyard. It's kind of, like, odd, but it's kind of cool, too. Like, the characters are really great in here. I really like that. In fact, the ending of this I thought was very touching. I really loved that a lot. And, yeah, like I said, I can definitely see this being, like, a really awesome movie, if done right, of course. And, because I know Neil Gaiman stuff has been adapted before, like, Stardust, I think, is one of them. Yeah, not Stardust Crusaders, but I think there's one called Stardust that he did that got made into a movie. But yeah, I can see this one definitely happening someday, but I don't know if they would call it the Graveyard Book. They'd probably call it the Graveyard Movie. I don't fucking know. But yeah, like I said, this was definitely a very good book to read during the Halloween season, so I was really glad to have picked it up then. And yeah, like I said, I definitely would recommend this. It's very, very good. Now we're going to get into the novels. So, this first one we got here is actually one that was recommended to me by a friend from Ottawa there, and I finally found it here, and that happens to be Gravity from Tess Garrett. So I've never heard of this author until she mentioned it to me, and I was like, okay, so like, what is it about? So basically, it's about this doctor who has a name named Emma Watson. Yes, not the actor, but which is kind of funny. So that's how I remember that. So yeah, so she's a doctor, and there's a virus that's multiplying throughout like a very deadly environment, and a bunch of shit goes wrong. So, it's kind of one of those kind of stories, so I'm interested in reading this. Like I said, like, I mainly picked this up just because a friend of mine told me that she really liked it, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then this one right here is one that I was surprised to find in my area, and in good condition that it's in, and that happens to be the complete series of poems of Edgar Allan Poe, and has a really cool cover art with a raven on it. So yeah, this is actually like a really nice version of it, and like I said, this is a very old one. Like, well, I was talking to the owner there, he was saying that this was a copy from like the 60s, and the fact that it's in like as good condition as it is, like there's no like fucking frayed edges on the pages. The dust cover's in pretty good shape, except for like there's like a little tape here at the bottom, and up here there's a bit of a rip. But you know what though, like I said, for a book like from the 60s even till now, like this is damn good looking. And yeah, this is one I definitely should have read throughout October, but I didn't because I was reading other shit. But yeah, what can I say about Edgar Allan Poe? He's like one of the most like influential like authors and poets out there. Of course, everyone knows about the Raven story. It's been parodied many times. In fact, I really loved the Simpsons version of it. That was just way too good. But yeah, like I said, it's just a really cool little like version of it that you just don't see around very often. Alrighty, so now we got some hardcover books, and the same friend that recommended me to read Gravity also recommended to read one of these, and then I just happened to get them in a lot, and I figured, fuck it, might as well just get them all. And that happens to be John Saul with Black Creek Crossing. And yeah, I actually really like the cover art on this one. It actually looks really cool. But yeah, so from what I remember of the description of this one is that it's basically about this chick. She gets like bullied in school and whatever, but then like she ends up like finding a house on the way home, and and then they have to try and investigate it, kind of thing. It may sound kind of generic, but I've heard that it is actually like really good, and like I said, it has like a really cool atmosphere and all that. So I'll definitely try to read this soonish at some point. But yeah, like I said, this is the one that I mainly knew about. The rest of them that I got were just kind of like bonus ones because they were like really cheap. So next is John Saul's Midnight Voices. I forget the plot of this one. I remember looking it up, and it sounded pretty decent, but, like I said, it's, I know it has to do with another haunted house story kind of thing, so I was like, alright, I'll give that one a try. And then the final one is, the Manhattan Hunt Club. This one is actually different than the other two. This one's actually about some guy goes to prison, and then he ends up getting involved in, like, a secret society within the prison, so that sounds like it could be pretty neat. And plus, this one's actually, like, really shiny. I don't know if you can tell, but it is. It's, like, all holographic. It's kind of cool. But, yeah, like I said, I'm not familiar with John Saul, other than that apparently he is a pretty good underrated author compared to, like, like the big ones that we always know. So, like I said, I'm willing to try them out. And next up we got is another pretty big horror author, and that happens to be Dean Koontz with Dragon Tears, and I gotta say, I really love this cover art. Like, I always loved the way like the '90s covers looked, where they had like just solid, nice, solid, bright color, and then they just have like a cool static image. I just really like that. I kind of wish more like modern book covers would look like that, but. Anyways, whatever. Anyways, more importantly though, yeah, so I've never read a Dean Koontz book before, but I've always like knew about him because I knew one of my mom's exes used to have a couple of them, and I used to just look at the covers all the time, but I didn't know like anything about them. And then of course I know like not many of his stuff have been adapted into other things as much, but yeah, like I said, like, I do want to check out more, like, authors out there. Like, you all know I'm a Stephen King guy, but I do want to check out more other stuff, because, I could probably like this shit. Because I know there's a big rivalry between him and Stephen King, where it's like the whole console war where they hate each other. But I just say fuck all of that. I'm gonna read whoever the fuck I want. But yeah, I wanted to read this one first, not only because like I said, cool cover art, but I also just I like the idea of like the main villain. Apparently he's like a serial killer and he's all like narcissistic about a bunch of shit, so I'm really curious about reading it. And next up we got Michael Crichton, I almost called him Crichton Michael. Michael Crichton novel is this 3-set of The Andromedal Strain, Terminal Man, and The Great Train Robbery. So these are like his 3 earliest novels basically into like one book. Because trying to get them individually is, like, kind of hard, unless you want to get, like, the really ugly covers, but, no, I want, like, this, like, one with, like, the Biohazard logo, because I think it's cool looking. I actually found this at a thrift store for, like, next to nothing. Unfortunately, the condition isn't the best, but, that's fine. I mean, it's not, like, the worst ever. But, yeah, so, like I said, all his, like, earlier works, and the ones that really interest me the most is the Andromeda Strain and the Great Train Robbery. The Andromeda Strain is basically, like, another, like, plague sort of story where everything just goes wrong, and then there's also the Great Train Robbery, which is a, it's exactly what the title says. It's about a train getting robbed, and it all has to do with, like, an actual event in history that happened, so that's kind of pretty interesting to know about. The Terminal Man, I forget exactly what it's about, but I just remember it not being as, like, super interesting as the other two, but I might just read it eventually, but it's just definitely not going to be a, like, a top priority for me. Alright, and last but not least, we're going to talk about some Stephen King stuff, because I've gotten quite a few of them, and this one right here happens to be Roadwork, which some people say this is one of his worst books ever. So here's the thing with this one. Obviously, I've never read it yet, but the reason why I picked it up is for a few reasons. One, well, I kind of like this cover. I think it's just kind of like, holographic and shiny, and it also matches with my version of The Long Walk, which I really love. So I wanted to, just kind of get for that, and it was cheap. And 3, well, it's, I think the concept of it sounds kind of interesting. It's basically about this, this guy who lives in a house, and they're doing, like, trying to build a highway, but his house is, like, in the way, and they try to get him to move, but he doesn't want to move, so then they're like, alright, well, if he doesn't want to move, then we're gonna have to fucking kill his ass, basically. So, yeah, they basically just try to force the guy to leave out in all these, like, crazy ways. So, I'm curious on wanting to see how that turns out, because, like I said, I don't think this has been made into anything. But, yeah, like I said, I'm willing to give it a try, at the very least. If it ends up sucking, you know what, I can always just, like, sell it somewhere. So, yeah, there you go. That's all I gotta say about Roadwork. Everyone's all-time favorite, right? And next up we got is, Finders Keepers, which is part 2 in the Bill Hodges trilogy, which is his crime series, sort of like a mixture of like John Grisham meets like Thomas Harris, sort of. I don't know. I haven't read any of these yet. I actually really want to get Mr. Mercedes and actually read this, but yeah, unfortunately I can't find a decent copy of it anywhere around here, so I ended up finding this in decent shape, and I was like, alright, I'll mostly get this now, because, it's not that expensive and all that, but, yeah, it'll be a while before I get to this, though, but I'm very curious about reading this, because they definitely do sound very interesting. In fact, apparently, this one, from what I remember, like, the killer in it, like, basically uses, like, a book gimmick. And next we got is, Revival, which has a very cool, like, holographic cover and all back and all that. Like, it looks very shiny, which I really like. But yeah, basically this book is basically Stephen King's version of like Frankenstein, which is really awesome to me because I actually really like the whole Frankenstein story. In fact, when it comes to the Universal movies, the Frankenstein trilogy is actually my favorite. So it's always cool to hear like more like different like versions of it. Even though this obviously is not like directly a version of it, but it has a very similar element to it. So, yeah, I think that's just really cool. Because, you know, like, Stephen King did, like, Salem's Lot, which is basically, like, his version of Dracula. Well, this is basically like that, but with Frankenstein. So, yeah. I'm actually thinking about reading this one pretty soon. Alright, next up, we got this big one, and that happens to be 4 Past Midnight. This is another one. I love the cover art for it. Like, it's simple, but I like it. In fact, I remember my dad used to have, this copy, so, you know, it's kind of nostalgic to me like that. But yeah, this is another short stories, well, more like 4 novellas, I guess. These are, you know, 4 stories in one. So I remember the Langoliers is in this, and same with Secret Window, and then I know there's also the Sundog, and I fucking forget what the 4th one is, but I know the biggest 2 well-known ones are the Langoliers because of the movie, well, the TV movie that they did, which is kind of amusing, mostly because of the effects that they use are funny, because like the Langoliers themselves look like Pac-Man, but with teeth, and they're just going nom nom. I don't know, it's so cheesy, but I do want to read the book to it though, because it does sound like an interesting premise where, you know, like a plane gets stuck in like a loop in time. And then, Secret Window, I do remember watching the movie of that one, and that was the one that had Johnny Depp in it. And I actually remember there's, like, a scene in it where he actually wears, like, Shinjiro from Persona 4's, or Persona 3's outfit. Like, he literally has, like, the black beanie and, like, a red big jacket. And I was just like, oh, it's Shinjiro. Yeah, I don't know. Just leave it to me to compare shit to stupid shit. And finally, we got some big boys here. Well, more like just one big boy than just 2 others. So, this is actually one of his best series, being the Dark Tower books. We got book 2, book 3, and book 4. So, unfortunately no book 1, because, you know, I just haven't seen it around in my area. At least one that actually, like, looks decent on the shelf of these, because, you know, I don't want to get, like, the one with the shitty movie cover on it. So yeah, this is a drawing of the 3, and, you know, this is book 2 in the series, and, you know, like, I could go on and on about all these books, but, I am pretty sure most people already are aware of them, that it's basically his, like, interconnecting crossover adventure thing, and it's hard to also discuss, like, say, like, what genre it is, because it's like fucking fantasy and like western and horror and thriller and romance and like just has like fucking like everything. Like it's so interesting. I've never read these, but I've always wanted to because I always thought they looked really cool. And plus, you know, one thing that kind of how I found out about the series was because of one of the main villains of the series. His name is the Crimson King, so I'm just like, oh, it's King Crimson, oh. You know, if they ever did, like, make, like, a whole, like series, like, a TV series of this, they need to have a fucking King Crimson song as, like, the main theme. That would be fucking amazing. But, yeah, so yeah, this is, like, book 4, Wizard and Glass, which, is basically, like, the prequel book, where he talks about all his backstory and whatever. And also another thing that's cool about these versions, too, is that they also have, like, nice pictures in them. Like, if I can show one right in... Like, here, look, you got, like some, like, crab stuff going on. I don't know. But, yeah. Anyways, so, yeah. The Dark Tower series is what I definitely do plan on reading at some point in time, but I know it might be a while, because I do know that it is best to read these, like, after you've read, like, a decent amount of his stuff, because I know there are some books that do actually spoil some of his stories. Like, I know one of them actually straight up spoils, like, Salem's Lot, and I'm just like, well, I kind of want to read that before I get into this. And there you have it. That's all the stuff that I got for this month. And I know there hasn't been a lot of gaming stuff, but, you know, like I've been saying, like, a lot of video games have just been, like, way too fucking stupidly expensive. Like all, like, the cool shit now is, like, way overpriced, and, you know, sometimes I'm just like, I don't even know, man. But yeah, like I said, I just also been, like, you know, focusing on other hobbies, and that's not to say that I'm giving up on gaming, because I'm not. It's just, you know, like, I'm still obviously playing stuff. It's just, you know, I just haven't been buying a lot. Like, I'm mostly gonna be buying some of these, like, new released games, like, probably, like, like, around, like, Christmas time when they're on sale on, like, huge discounts and stuff like that. But, anyways, I don't want this to go on, like, way too long. I'm sure it's already long enough as it is, but, of course, let's have a discussion in the comments about all the different stuff I've gotten, what you've experienced, or what you, like, would be curious to know more about, and all this kind of cool stuff, and, and just tell me if you've checked out any of the albums that I've been recommending and all that. So, anyways, with that said, thanks for watching, commenting, and have yourselves a great day.